We live in triggering times. The noise is constant. The opinions are endless. Every screen shouts for attention. Every moment demands a reaction. The world has become a test of composure, and most fail it daily. We scroll through conflict, outrage, tragedy, and comparison as if they were ordinary air. No wonder people feel drained. No wonder peace feels rare. Every alert, every argument, every headline is a pull on the mind, an invitation to lose control. We are surrounded by reasons to react. Injustice, ignorance, arrogance, manipulation, the list is endless. Yet the Stoic understands that reaction is the true defeat. To be triggered is to be commanded. Each time anger takes hold, each time fear dictates behavior, freedom slips away. Stoicism teaches that mastery does not come from controlling the world, but from controlling the self. The discipline is internal. The battlefield is the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that we have power over our thoughts, not outside events. That single truth, understood deeply, ends half of human misery. You cannot stop the world from being loud, but you can decide not to echo it. You cannot silence cruelty, but you can refuse to let it corrupt your peace. To live unbothered in chaotic times is not detachment, it is strength. We are going to explore how the Stoic becomes untouchable, how they navigate insult, fear, and conflict without losing focus, how they remain grounded while the world shakes. This is not theory, it is survival. Because in an age of noise, composure is rebellion. In an age of reaction, calm is power. The Stoic path is not an escape from life's intensity, it is mastery of it. Chapter 1. The Root of All Problems. We live in an era designed to provoke. Every sound, image, and opinion is a weapon for reaction. Outrage has become entertainment, offense is currency. People build entire identities on what disturbs them, and they defend those disturbances as if they were sacred. Yet beneath all this noise lies a simple truth the Stoics understood 2,000 years ago. Emotion without discipline destroys the mind. The person who cannot govern their internal state is governed by every external one. To live in constant agitation is to surrender sovereignty. The Stoics saw disturbance not as a feature of the world, but as a fault in perception. Nothing is inherently triggering. The event occurs, the judgment follows. What stirs emotion is not the thing itself, but the opinion we attach to it. A harsh word, an unfair act, a piece of news. These carry no power on their own. It is the interpretation that gives them strength. When you believe something has insulted you, you create the insult. When you believe the world has wronged you, you multiply the injury. The first strike is life. The second is your imagination. The first is reality. The second is voluntary suffering. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you fill the mind with resentment, every experience will reflect that shade. If you train it in composure, every challenge becomes neutral ground. The mind cannot hold both fury and wisdom in the same hand. Each reaction is a vote, chaos or control, weakness or mastery. To react is to choose defeat, disguised as emotion. To remain still is to assert power without display. Disorder begins where discipline ends. Most people mistake emotional release for emotional freedom. They believe venting their anger is a form of strength, when it is proof of dependence. Every time you lash out, you confirm that your peace belongs to something outside yourself. You hand authority to strangers, to screens, to circumstances. The Stoic reverses this equation. They understand that calm is not passivity, it is precision. To stay unmoved is not to feel less, it is to perceive clearly. When the mind is undisturbed, judgment becomes clean and action becomes efficient. Anger, fear, jealousy, envy. These are signals of an untrained mind attempting to process threat. The Stoic reads them as alerts, not commands. When anger arises, it says, "You are clinging to control you never possessed." When fear appears, it says, "You are projecting failure into the future." When jealousy forms, it says, "You have measured worth by another's outcome." Each emotion exposes a form of misunderstanding. The Stoic does not suppress it. They study it, name it, neutralize it, and move on. The world is full of noise engineered to bypass your reason. Algorithms provoke, politicians bait, media profits from outrage. The untrained mind becomes their instrument, reacting exactly as designed. The trained mind becomes immune. It reads manipulation as pattern, not as personal attack. It does not feed the system by reacting to it. Every calm response is rebellion. Every refusal to be provoked is a declaration of self-rule in an economy built on emotional chaos. The Stoic does not chase tranquility, they build it. Through discipline, they construct a foundation that cannot be shaken by insult or uncertainty. They learn that peace is not found in silence, but in strength. It is not found in withdrawal, but in clarity. The calm mind can walk through disorder without absorption. It can witness collapse without fear. It can engage the world without becoming infected by it. This is not detachment. It is internal order. Seneca observed that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most triggers exist not in the present moment, but in memory and prediction. The mind revisits past pain or anticipates future threat, and both illusions feel real. The Stoic breaks this cycle by grounding perception in what is immediately controllable: thought, action, response. They shrink their world to what can be directed, and in that narrow space they discover freedom. The world can burn around them, yet they remain architect of their own composure. Composure is not apathy. It is strength shaped by understanding. The Stoic knows emotion is energy, and energy without command becomes chaos. To remain calm in turbulence is not weakness, it is efficiency. The untrained burn through themselves, the disciplined convert disturbance into direction. Each moment of restraint is power saved for creation, clarity, and command. To master the mind is to master the world's influence. The person who is constantly triggered is not a victim of society, but of self-neglect. They have allowed the world to teach them how to feel. The Stoic teaches themselves. They audit their reactions, study their thoughts, and fortify the space between event and response. That space is freedom. Every human being possesses it. Few ever defend it. Most surrender it to every stimulus that demands attention. The Stoic guards it as sacred territory, the one domain where peace can be built that no one can invade. This is where real power begins. The calm person is not disengaged, they are dominant. They see clearly while others drown in noise. They act precisely while others thrash in impulse. They conserve their strength for what matters. Their peace is not a hiding place. It is a fortress of reason. To be untriggered in a chaotic world is not indifference. It is mastery of self in the midst of disorder. The Stoic does not run from the storm. They build stillness inside it. Chapter 2. Not emotionless, less emotion. To live without emotion is not the aim of Stoicism. The Stoic does not seek to erase feeling but to discipline it. They understand that emotion is not an enemy, but a force that requires structure. Every impulse, every surge of feeling is energy that can be used or wasted. The untrained mind wastes it in reaction. The disciplined mind channels it into judgment, endurance, and creation. Stoicism teaches that emotion must serve reason, never rule it. The modern world confuses emotional intensity with authenticity. People believe that to feel deeply is to live deeply, but that belief binds them to volatility. They swing from one state to another, exhausted by their own extremes. The Stoic sees this as weakness disguised as sensitivity. A strong person does not need to display how much they care. Their care is measured in composure, consistency, and clarity. Emotion without restraint is noise. Emotion with reason is signal. Marcus Aurelius grieved. Seneca felt sorrow. Epictetus endured pain and humiliation. They did not deny emotion, they refined it. To be less emotional does not mean coldness, it means coherence. The Stoic aims to feel without losing structure, to act without confusion, to experience emotion as information, not identity. They allow the wave to pass without letting it erode the foundation. This discipline is not suppression, it is understanding. What you understand cannot enslave you. Emotion becomes dangerous when it becomes narrative. The mind tells itself stories about what happened, what it means, what it predicts. From these stories arise anger, fear, and despair. The Stoic interrupts this pattern. They examine the story and separate fact from opinion. This separation dismantles illusion. Once you remove interpretation, the event becomes manageable. What remains is not a storm, but a circumstance. The Stoic meets that circumstance with calm precision. Seneca wrote that the mind must be trained like an athlete. Every encounter with emotion is a form of practice. A harsh word becomes resistance training for patience. A disappointment strengthens endurance. Each insult becomes a test of balance. The Stoic does not ask to be free from trial. They use every trial to reinforce composure. Life becomes the gymnasium of the mind, and the exercises are emotional. There is a misconception that emotional restraint diminishes humanity. In truth, it sharpens it. The person who reacts impulsively is not more human. They are less conscious. Awareness begins where impulse ends. The Stoic feels what arises, observes it without judgment, and acts according to principle. They experience emotion fully, yet remain ungoverned by it. This is not distance from life, but immersion with direction. The Stoic practice of apatheia, tranquility through disciplined emotion, does not imply numbness. It signifies clarity. It is the difference between a clear lake and a stormy sea. Both contain water, but only one reflects truth. The still mind sees the world accurately. The turbulent mind sees only distortion. Apatheia allows perception to remain aligned with reality, untouched by exaggeration or panic. Emotions are natural responses, not moral failures. The Stoic recognizes their arrival, but decides their duration. Anger may rise for a moment, but it does not linger. Fear may visit, but it does not unpack. The Stoic welcomes emotion as a visitor, not a tenant. They allow it to express its purpose and then depart. This balance is not mechanical detachment, it is conscious stewardship of energy. Epictetus taught that some things are up to us and others are not. Emotions belong to both categories. Their arrival is not up to us. Their interpretation is. The Stoic accepts the first, masters the second. To control emotion is not to erase it, but to claim authority over its narrative. The world will always provoke. The wise person decides what those provocations become. Modern culture idolizes expression. People are told to speak their truth immediately, to feel without filter, to broadcast every reaction. The Stoic rejects this culture of immediacy. They do not suppress feeling, they refine timing. Expression without reflection is immaturity. Reflection before expression is power. The Stoic does not rush to speak because they value accuracy over exposure. Silence is not repression. It is discipline in motion. Composure is not the absence of passion, but its redirection. The Stoic channels anger into action, sorrow into insight, disappointment into endurance. Emotion becomes fuel for creation, not destruction. This is how they transform volatility into virtue. They do not fear feeling, they fear losing control of it. True composure is built from experience, not avoidance. To reduce emotion is to increase strength. The person who can remain calm while others collapse gains leverage over life itself. The untrained will call it coldness. The wise will recognize it as mastery. The Stoic does not need validation for their calm. Their peace speaks louder than their reaction. They are not trying to prove control, they are control embodied. The discipline of less emotion extends beyond the individual. It shapes relationships, leadership, and influence. The calm person becomes a stabilizing force in a chaotic environment. They absorb turbulence without spreading it. They model strength that does not threaten but anchors. In times of crisis, people look to the one who does not panic. That is the Stoic. Seneca said that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Every pause between impulse and action expands freedom. In that space, the Stoic rewrites instinct into intelligence. They choose response over reaction. Each delay strengthens the bridge between feeling and reason. Over time, the mind becomes trained to wait, to think, to choose. Emotion becomes a servant, not a saboteur. The Stoic learns that less emotion does not mean less connection. It means more precision in connection. They love with clarity, not desperation. They care without ownership. They grieve without collapse. This level of balance produces deeper relationships because it removes fear and dependency. Love becomes an act of strength, not survival. To live with less emotion is to move through life with less distortion. The Stoic sees people as they are, not as projections of their feelings. They see events as neutral until judged. They see the self not as a victim of emotion, but as its architect. This clarity frees them from cycles of blame and attachment. They can engage without losing center. When the Stoic looks inward, they see emotion as weather. It changes, passes, returns. The wise person does not try to stop the weather. They build shelter within. Less emotion does not mean empty skies. It means storms no longer destroy the structure. The calm mind stands like stone beneath changing clouds. The mind that no longer chases or resists emotion becomes available to reason. This availability is rare. Most people are too occupied managing reactions to think clearly. The Stoic clears this noise. In stillness, they find strategy. In silence, they find understanding. Their restraint creates space for insight. The less they react, the more they perceive. The calm mind is efficient. It spends no energy on unnecessary suffering. It does not rehearse pain or magnify insult. It treats disturbance as data. From that data comes understanding. From understanding comes direction. Emotion becomes an ally in the pursuit of reason, not an obstacle to it. The person who lives by emotion lives in constant instability. They are pulled by every current of praise, fear, and approval. The Stoic lives anchored to principle. They are not cold, they are consistent. The warmth of their spirit comes from depth, not volatility. They are not easily excited because they are not easily broken. Less emotion is not a limitation, it is liberation. The fewer disturbances within, the greater the capacity for focus, patience, and endurance. Calm is the highest form of energy conservation. Every emotional outburst is energy wasted. Every measured response is strength retained. The Stoic converts reaction into power through control. The person who cannot control their emotions cannot be trusted with outcomes. Leadership, influence, and integrity require internal order. The Stoic builds this order deliberately. They monitor their impulses, dissect their judgments, and refine their speech. The result is a character that does not fracture under pressure. Their stability becomes contagious. Emotional balance is a form of intelligence. It is awareness of cause and effect within the mind. It is knowing when to yield and when to act. It is the difference between reaction and wisdom. To the Stoic, this intelligence is worth more than knowledge because it governs action. A calm fool is wiser than a brilliant person who rages. To be less emotional is not to disengage from life. It is to engage with control. The Stoic does not float above experience. They move through it with precision. They know that the world will test them. They welcome the test. They do not flinch when provoked because provocation exposes opportunity. Every emotional trigger becomes a chance to demonstrate mastery. Emotional restraint does not eliminate joy. It refines it. The Stoic's joy is quiet, durable, and independent of circumstance. It does not depend on praise or fortune. It comes from alignment between principle and action. This joy cannot be stolen because it does not rely on external conditions. It is built within and sustained by reason. Seneca wrote that to be angry at the world is to forget that it does not notice. This realization frees the mind from the illusion of control over others. The Stoic redirects this awareness inward. They do not demand that the world behave differently. They demand that they behave correctly within it. Their peace is earned through accountability. The practice of less emotion sharpens perspective. It allows the Stoic to distinguish between what can be influenced and what must be accepted. Emotion clouds this boundary. Reason defines it. Each time emotion arises, the Stoic asks, "Is this within my power?" If not, it is dismissed. If yes, it is addressed calmly. Through this filter, chaos becomes order. The world rewards those who appear passionate, but it is built by those who remain steady. Passion may ignite movement, but steadiness completes it. The Stoic uses emotion as a spark, not as a fuel source. Once the work begins, reason sustains it. Emotion may start the fire, but discipline keeps it burning evenly. To live with less emotion is to stop living as a slave to circumstance. It is to no longer confuse reaction with authenticity. The Stoic understands that emotion is temporary, virtue is permanent. They prioritize what lasts. In this choice lies freedom. The less the mind is disturbed, the more it can build. The person who embodies less emotion becomes untouchable in the best sense. They can be insulted without offense, challenged without panic, loved without dependence, and hated without injury. Their stability confuses the reactive and attracts the disciplined. This balance creates silent authority, the kind that needs no defense. Stoicism does not erase feeling, it redefines it. The goal is not emotional emptiness, but emotional precision. To feel less is to suffer less. To feel correctly is to live clearly. The Stoic does not chase peace. They create it through understanding. Their calm is not a gift from life. It is the result of relentless internal training. To have less emotion is to move through chaos untouched. It is to carry stillness where others lose balance. It is to act with accuracy when others drown in reaction. This is not suppression. It is mastery. It is the art of directing one's inner state regardless of external noise. The Stoic becomes the eye of the storm, calm, aware, immovable. The less emotion a person has, the more room there is for thought. The more thought they possess, the more deliberate their life becomes. This is how the Stoic turns restraint into power. The untrained live as echoes of the world. The disciplined live as architects of themselves. To feel less chaos is to command more order. That is the essence of Stoic strength. Chapter 3. Anger only hurts you. Anger is the most deceptive of all emotions. It disguises itself as strength, as courage, as justice. Yet beneath its surface, it is corrosion. It eats through reason, clarity, and restraint. The Stoics viewed anger as temporary madness, a rupture in judgment that turns the rational being into a slave of impulse. Seneca called it a brief insanity, because in its grip, the mind forgets itself. It stops seeing what is real and reacts only to what it imagines. In that blindness, damage is done that cannot be undone. The modern world rewards outrage. Every platform depends on it. Anger drives attention, attention fuels profit, and people become participants in their own manipulation. They mistake reaction for righteousness. The Stoic watches this cycle with quiet understanding. They know that anger does not reveal strength. It reveals control surrendered. When someone can provoke you at will, they possess your peace. The Stoic refuses to be owned. Anger always promises relief. It tells you that expression will restore balance, that eruption will ease pressure. Yet every outburst deepens dependence. The mind learns that fury is a solution, and each time it yields, it weakens. The Stoic sees through this illusion. They recognize that the only victory over insult is indifference, and the only true counter to offense is self-command. Anger never repairs. It only multiplies what is broken. Marcus Aurelius warned himself that the consequences of anger are often worse than the events that provoke it. This is a truth that transcends time. The insult fades. The damage of reaction lingers. When you lose your temper, you become what you despise. You mirror the behavior that disturbed you. In that moment, you hand your identity to emotion. The Stoic refuses this exchange. They understand that peace, once lost, costs far more to regain than any satisfaction anger could deliver. To control anger, one must understand its structure. It begins with expectation. The world does not match what you demand, so resistance rises. That resistance builds pressure. The ego insists it has been wronged, and the mind obeys the ego's outrage. But if you remove the expectation, if you accept the nature of people, chance, and fate, the anger collapses. Without entitlement, there is no injury. The Stoic trains for this. They expect difficulty, anticipate insult, and rehearse composure. Preparedness makes provocation powerless. Seneca taught that the remedy for anger is delay. Time exposes the truth behind emotion. What feels urgent now often appears absurd an hour later. The Stoic practices the art of pause. When agitation arises, they breathe, they observe, they wait. The act of waiting dissolves the illusion of necessity. In that space between stimulus and response, mastery is built. Every second of restraint is a step away from chaos. The angry person believes they are defending dignity. In reality, they are abandoning it. Dignity is calm under attack, restraint under pressure, clarity under insult. It is not loud. It is not violent. It does not need witnesses. True dignity is invisible because it is internal. The Stoic protects this invisible structure by refusing to descend into emotional reaction. They know that nothing another person does can degrade their character unless they choose to respond in kind. Anger consumes energy that should be used for progress. It transforms time into waste. The Stoic treats each moment as a resource. To squander it on outrage is to trade hours of life for seconds of satisfaction. Seneca said that no man was ever wise in anger. Wisdom requires patience, and patience cannot exist in the same breath as fury. The calm mind sees options. The angry mind sees only opposition. In anger, choice disappears. When insulted, the Stoic reminds themselves the offender acts according to their understanding. If they knew better, they would do better. To be angry at ignorance is to punish a child for not yet having learned. The wise person expects the world to act as it does, not as they wish. The recognition of human limitation replaces outrage with compassion, not indulgence, but perspective. Anger makes the body its accomplice. Muscles tense, breath shortens, blood quickens. The body prepares for combat while the situation demands restraint. The Stoic recognizes these signals as physiological lies. The body cannot distinguish insult from threat, but the mind can. Reason must interrupt instinct. This interruption is where freedom begins. To notice the surge without obeying it is victory. Every angry word carries a cost. Once spoken, it cannot be retrieved. Once delivered, it shapes perception. The Stoic learns economy of speech. They know that silence can protect integrity more than explanation. When emotion tempts the tongue, they wait for clarity to return. Words born in calm build trust. Words born in anger fracture it. The wise understand that every moment of reaction is an opportunity to either reinforce or diminish character. Epictetus advised never to speak or act while agitated. He warned that decisions made in heat are decisions made by someone else, the irrational self that exists only temporarily. The Stoics' task is to ensure that only their rational self acts. This requires awareness, repetition, and humility. They accept that anger will visit, but they do not grant it command. Modern culture encourages the expression of anger as authenticity. The Stoic sees this as error. Expression does not purify emotion, it entrenches it. Each repetition of outrage strengthens the habit. The more you yield to anger, the faster it arises the next time. The Stoic reverses this process. By refusing to react, they weaken the pattern. Over time, provocation loses power. What once enraged them becomes neutral. The muscle of restraint grows through use. The Stoic understands that anger is always directed inward before it turns outward. It begins with personal insecurity, the ego wounded by reality. To eliminate anger, one must reduce ego. Humility dissolves half of what once provoked. The wise person does not assume the universe owes them comfort or agreement. They are not shocked when people act according to their nature. They expect imperfection, and in that expectation, anger finds no soil. To remain calm under attack is not weakness, it is command. The calm person controls both their mind and the situation. They observe what others miss. They act when others react. This composure is not natural, it is trained. Each time anger is resisted, composure strengthens. Each time composure wins, freedom expands. When someone attempts to provoke you, they are testing for weakness. If you react, you confirm it. The Stoic learns to use insult as a mirror. It shows where pride still lives. It reveals where ego still hides. Every insult becomes a diagnostic tool. The disciplined person studies it, not to retaliate, but to refine. They turn offense into data. This is the alchemy of Stoic growth. The angry person imagines their reaction will teach others a lesson. It rarely does. It only demonstrates volatility. The Stoic teaches through conduct, not display. Their calm is more persuasive than any argument. It proves that mastery is possible. It disarms aggression because calm has no opponent. You cannot fight someone who will not descend to your level. Seneca wrote that he pitied the angry more than the wronged, because the angry suffer both the injury and the emotion. They are twice punished. The Stoic chooses the single blow of circumstance over the repeated blows of reaction. They understand that pain is unavoidable, but suffering is optional. Anger multiplies pain. Reason isolates it. Anger often hides fear. It is fear of loss, of disrespect, of powerlessness. When the Stoic feels the spark of anger, they look for the fear beneath it. By addressing that root, they dissolve the symptom. They replace fear with understanding and anger with patience. This inversion is how strength is built, not through denial, but through dissection. The calm person is not free from emotion. They are free from enslavement to emotion. Their stillness intimidates the chaotic because it cannot be manipulated. When you refuse to react, you remove the weapon from the attacker's hand. You also remove the illusion of control from the situation. Anger feeds conflict. Calm starves it. To master anger, one must first respect its power. It can destroy years of progress in seconds. It can end relationships, careers, and reputations. The Stoic does not underestimate this force. They treat anger as fire, useful only when contained, devastating when released. Their vigilance is constant because they know that no one is above error. Even the wise can burn if they play too close to flame. In moments of provocation, the Stoic practices mental distancing. They remind themselves, this is only perception. The event is external. The turmoil is internal. They visualize the gap between stimulus and self. That gap is sacred. Within it lies the ability to choose. Each time they choose reason, they strengthen identity. Each time they choose anger, they dissolve it. The Stoic knows that to forgive is not to condone, it is to reclaim peace. Forgiveness ends the internal war long before the external one can. Anger chains the mind to the past. Forgiveness frees it for the present. The wise forgive because they refuse to carry another's failure as their burden. They leave injustice to time and focus on alignment with virtue. To the Stoic, anger is noise. It fills the mind with static and drowns the signal of wisdom. When noise dominates, vision narrows. When calm returns, sight expands. Therefore, the Stoic disciplines themselves to return to silence quickly. Silence restores perception, and perception restores control. The mind, cleared of anger, can once again discern what matters. Every human being encounters injustice. The difference between the strong and the weak is not experience, but response. The weak demand fairness. The strong create order within unfairness. The Stoic's justice is internal. It is measured by behavior, not revenge. They act justly even when wronged, because their standard does not depend on external behavior. The path to peace runs through self-restraint. Anger is a detour that leads only back to suffering. Each time you resist, the road becomes clearer. Each time you indulge, it darkens. The Stoic knows that mastery is built through repetition. 1,000 small victories over impulse are worth more than one grand act of control. Anger thrives on attention. Ignore it and it dies. Feed it and it grows. The Stoic starves it through disinterest. They do not feed their rage with stories, conversation, or justification. They let it wither in silence. What is not entertained cannot endure. The calm person does not fear being misunderstood. They understand that perception lies beyond control. They are content to let time reveal truth. The angry rush to prove themselves, and in doing so, prove their instability. The Stoic plays the long game. They know that composure, maintained consistently, outlasts every insult. The purpose of emotional control is not perfection, but direction. The Stoic will still feel the spark of anger, but they will choose what follows. They do not aim to be unfeeling, but to be unbreakable. When anger arises, they meet it as an opportunity to refine themselves again. The emotion becomes a teacher. Each lesson adds another layer of composure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, that the best revenge is to be unlike your enemy. To remain calm in a world addicted to outrage is a revolution in itself. Every unreactive moment is an act of rebellion against manipulation. The Stoic does not fight the world's anger. They outlast it. Their silence is louder than the world's shouting. Anger only hurts the one who carries it. It burns inward before it ever reaches its target. The wise know this, and so they drop the flame before it spreads. The Stoic walks through the same chaos as everyone else, but leaves no smoke behind. Their calm is not passive, it is an act of defense. Their stillness is not retreat, it is dominance over the self. To conquer anger is to conquer the mind's most seductive enemy. The Stoic stands at the edge of provocation and does not fall. They remain steady where others shatter. They turn insult into insight, injury into patience, injustice into growth. The world loses its power to wound them because they refuse to wound themselves. That is the true victory over anger. Chapter 4. You're responsible for your emotions. Responsibility begins where blame ends. The Stoic understands that emotional stability cannot coexist with the habit of assigning fault. As long as your peace depends on what others do or fail to do, you remain their servant. To reclaim authority over your emotions, you must withdraw permission from the external world. The world will always provoke, but you decide what those provocations mean. This decision is the foundation of self-mastery. Every emotion is a signal of interpretation. Events themselves are neutral. Meaning is optional. A Stoic does not ask, "Why did this happen to me?" They ask, "Why am I interpreting it this way?" The difference is everything. The first question breeds resentment. The second builds understanding. The Stoic takes full ownership of reaction, knowing that perception precedes feeling. If the emotion is destructive, they trace it back to a flawed judgment. Once corrected, the emotion dissolves. Marcus Aurelius wrote that people are disturbed not by things, but by their opinions about things. This truth exposes the illusion of emotional victimhood. No one can make you angry without your cooperation. No one can offend you unless you assign them that power. Every time you react, you authorize another to control your internal state. The Stoic denies that privilege. They keep emotional authority where it belongs, within their own judgment. Epictetus taught that when you are offended, remember that it is your choice to be offended. The insult does not carry weight until you give it meaning. The disciplined mind recognizes that emotion is a choice disguised as reflex. The untrained surrender to the first impulse and call it authenticity. The trained pause, examine, and decide. The pause is where freedom lives. Most people believe they are reacting to life. In truth, they are reacting to their own interpretations of life. They create narratives around events and suffer the consequences of those narratives. The Stoic breaks this pattern. They recognize emotion as self-generated. The event may ignite a spark, but the flame is built by thought. Control the thought, and the fire goes out. Responsibility does not mean guilt, it means power. When you accept full authorship of your inner state, you remove the illusion of helplessness. You no longer wait for people to change or circumstances to align. You act upon what is within reach, your thoughts, your choices, your standards. The Stoic accepts that nothing external can disturb their peace without permission. The key word is permission. The practice of accountability begins with awareness. Every surge of emotion is an opportunity to observe cause and effect. The Stoic asks, what belief produced this feeling? What assumption made this hurt possible? What expectation have I placed on the world that it never agreed to meet? Through this inquiry, emotion becomes education. Each reaction teaches where the mind remains untrained. Seneca wrote that to be angry at the world is to forget that it does not notice. The wise person understands that outrage changes nothing but themselves. Each act of resistance against reality tightens the chains of frustration. Acceptance, not submission, is freedom. Acceptance does not mean approval, it means clarity. When you see things as they are, emotion becomes information, not disturbance. The Stoic does not aim to suppress emotion, they aim to govern it. Suppression is avoidance, governance is order. To govern emotion, one must identify the belief that sustains it. Anger depends on the belief that life should be fair. Envy depends on the belief that outcomes define worth. Fear depends on the belief that uncertainty equals danger. When these beliefs are challenged, emotion loses its fuel. The mind stabilizes not by force, but by correction. Accountability also means restraint. The Stoic does not project their emotions onto others. They do not make their inner turbulence someone else's burden. To remain calm when disturbed is an act of service. It prevents the spread of chaos. The wise know that emotional contagion is real. One person's lack of control can poison an entire environment. To remain composed is to protect both yourself and those around you. When frustration arises, the Stoic looks inward before outward. They do not ask, "Who caused this?" They ask, "What belief allowed this to control me?" This inversion transforms every difficulty into training. Each disturbance reveals where strength must be developed. The disciplined mind sees the world as feedback, not opposition. The Stoic does not expect the world to accommodate their comfort. They prepare themselves to meet the world as it is. Preparation replaces shock. Understanding replaces anger. The more you understand human nature, the less it surprises you. People will act according to their understanding, and that understanding is limited. Expecting otherwise is self-inflicted pain. Responsibility for emotion means refusing to outsource peace. Many seek tranquility through control of others, of outcomes, of reputation. But control of externals is impossible. The Stoic places all investment where control is absolute, inner judgment. They understand that mastery of self is the only reliable form of power. Everything else is temporary. Epictetus compared the mind to a fortress. The walls are built from discipline, reason, and awareness. Each reaction you master strengthens the wall. Each uncontrolled outburst creates a crack. The wise guard their fortress fiercely, not through withdrawal, but through vigilance. They allow no intruder to breach the gate of judgment. People often say, "They made me angry." The Stoic hears this as confession. I surrendered control. To believe someone else can dictate your state is to deny your own agency. The disciplined mind rejects this weakness. They may acknowledge stimulus, but they never concede authorship. They remain unmoved until reason commands movement. Responsibility also extends to positive emotion. The Stoic does not allow praise to inflate them any more than criticism can wound them. Both reactions belong to the same weakness, dependence on validation. To remain level under both applause and insult is to reach balance. Emotion becomes consistent when it is no longer rented to external approval. The untrained chase emotional stability through circumstance, better jobs, better partners, better environments. The Stoic builds it internally. Their peace is portable because it is built on understanding, not condition. When emotion flares, they remember, this is mine to regulate. The world is not the cause, it is the context. Ownership transforms every moment into practice. Every day offers training in emotional accountability. The morning brings minor frustrations, the afternoon unexpected obstacles, the evening subtle disappointments. Each one tests the same principle. Who decides how you feel? The Stoic answers always, "I do." The repetition of this choice forms character. Over time, the mind no longer reacts, it responds. Emotional responsibility is not indifference, it is control through understanding. The Stoic feels what arises but does not confuse feeling with fact. They experience sadness, anger, fear, but none become identity. Emotion passes through them like wind through open space. They do not hold it. They observe, learn, and release. When life delivers hardship, the Stoic does not curse fate. They recognize it as natural law. To resist what must occur is irrational. To adapt is wisdom. Every disappointment contains the same lesson: control the controllable. The Stoic narrows focus to thought and action. Within that boundary, peace is absolute. To be responsible for your emotions is to live free from the tyranny of reaction. It means no one can manipulate you with praise or insult. It means you can remain composed while others fracture. It means you have reclaimed your birthright as a rational being. The Stoic does not wait for peace to arrive. They build it daily through accountability. Seneca taught that the greatest empire is to rule oneself. This empire requires constant governance. The Stoic watches for rebellion within, the uprising of pride, resentment, envy, fear. Each is subdued by reason before it spreads. The mind remains orderly because the ruler is vigilant. The modern individual seeks comfort before control. The Stoic reverses it. They know that control brings comfort naturally. When you control your interpretations, life cannot intimidate you. Challenges remain, but panic does not. Difficulty remains, but despair does not. You act, you adjust, you endure. That is true freedom. The moment you blame, you lose power. The moment you take ownership, you regain it. Every irritation is an invitation to practice. Every offense is a test of sovereignty. The wise welcome these trials because they reveal progress. The untrained resent them because they expose dependence. Responsibility extends to thought hygiene. The Stoic monitors mental input as carefully as physical diet. They do not consume endless negativity or outrage. They guard attention like currency. Whatever enters the mind will shape emotional response. By choosing thoughts deliberately, they engineer stability. To live responsibly with emotion is to live in alignment with reason. Emotion becomes a tool rather than a master. It signals imbalance, points to attachment, reveals expectation. The Stoic uses it diagnostically, not reactively. Each wave of emotion refines awareness further. Self-governance produces quiet confidence. The Stoic does not boast of control. They demonstrate it through consistency. They remain the same person across victory and defeat. This constancy builds trust, not in others, but within themselves. The inner dialogue becomes stable, no longer fragmented by impulse. Accountability transforms pain into education. The Stoic does not waste suffering. They extract insight from it. They ask, what weakness did this reveal? What false belief did it expose? Through this process, every hardship becomes raw material for strength. Emotion becomes the forge of character. To take responsibility for emotion is to reject the identity of victim. The Stoic does not live in emotional reaction, but in rational creation. They design their inner state with intention. While others seek to be understood, the Stoic seeks to understand. While others demand fairness, the Stoic practices alignment. They do not argue with reality, they adapt to it. When insulted, criticized, or misunderstood, the Stoic recalls, I decide what this means. The event is external, my peace is internal. The insult vanishes when I refuse to give it life. This is not denial, it is sovereignty. No external voice can define your inner state unless you invite it. Emotional responsibility also means honesty. The Stoic does not pretend calm when agitation exists. They confront it directly. Pretending peace is hypocrisy. Creating peace is discipline. They study their mind as a craftsman studies material, with precision, patience, and care. Each refinement adds strength. To master emotion is not to escape humanity, it is to elevate it. The Stoic experiences life fully, but is not ruled by experience. Pleasure does not intoxicate them. Pain does not enslave them. They move evenly through both. Their balance is not natural, it is earned. The disciplined person does not chase serenity, they embody it. Each day's challenges become opportunities to prove control. When provoked, they recall, "I am the gatekeeper of my own mind." Nothing enters without inspection. Nothing stays without purpose. Responsibility for emotion is the highest form of maturity. It signifies that the mind has accepted full command of its operations. The Stoic no longer blames weather, traffic, people, or fate. They treat every trigger as a mirror. The reflection may not flatter, but it instructs. Through that instruction, they evolve. To live as a Stoic is to own the unseen world, the thoughts, judgments, and emotions that create experience. The external world will never obey. The internal can. Control it, and you have everything. Lose it, and no possession can compensate. You are responsible for your emotions because they are produced within you. Once you accept that, the world loses its power to disturb you. You become steady amid disorder, composed amid noise, rational amid chaos. The Stoic does not wait for tranquility to appear. They generate it through mastery of perception. In that mastery lies invincibility. Chapter 5. Anger never helps. Anger always feels justified in the moment. It presents itself as a weapon of defense, a necessary force to assert boundaries or restore balance. But when the storm clears, only damage remains. The Stoic understands that no act performed in anger produces clarity. Anger narrows perception, blinds judgment, and transforms the intelligent into the impulsive. It burns both the target and the bearer. It convinces the weak that they are powerful while exposing their dependence on emotion. Seneca wrote that no plague has cost the human race more. He called anger temporary madness because it suspends reason and enthrones chaos. Every war, feud, betrayal, and downfall begins with the same spark, the belief that fury can heal injustice. Yet it never does. Anger multiplies suffering. The Stoic does not deny its existence. They deny its authority. They understand that emotion without reason is destruction disguised as passion. In the modern age, anger has become entertainment. Outrage feeds algorithms, arguments sustain engagement, and fury masquerades as conviction. People are conditioned to believe that reacting is the same as caring. The Stoic refuses to participate. They understand that constant indignation does not change the world. It corrodes the individual. To remain calm is to resist manipulation. Each unreactive moment weakens the system that profits from your agitation. Anger is persuasive because it feels productive. It gives the illusion of motion, the sense that something is being done. But all it moves is the mind, in circles. The Stoic knows that what feels like power is actually loss of control. No progress can be made while judgment is distorted. The wise person does not fight fire with fire. They extinguish it with discipline. Calm does not mean surrender. It means strategic control of energy. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that anger is the enemy of understanding. When you are angry, you stop seeing cause and effect. You react to fragments rather than the whole. The Stoic trains to see the full picture before responding. They understand that behind every insult lies ignorance, and behind every offense lies misunderstanding. Responding with rage adds confusion to confusion. Responding with calm reveals strength and perspective. The calm mind is efficient. Anger wastes time and energy, both of which are irreplaceable. The Stoic treats energy as sacred. They will not squander it on shouting, posturing, or revenge. They know that silence can achieve more than fury. Every outburst drains potential that could have been used for progress. Restraint is not weakness, it is conservation of power. Seneca observed that anger begins where reason ends. The moment fury takes over, intelligence retreats. The Stoic protects their reason above all else. They see it as the only true weapon against chaos. In any conflict, the first task is not to win, but to remain rational. A mind that keeps clarity under pressure has already achieved victory. The angry person believes they are in control because they are loud, forceful, and aggressive. The Stoic knows they are the opposite, controlled by impulse, enslaved to emotion, predictable to anyone who seeks to provoke them. The one who stays calm cannot be manipulated. Their composure is both shield and sword. When insulted, the Stoic asks, "Does this harm my character?" If the answer is no, they move on. If the answer is yes, they correct themselves quietly. The insult becomes irrelevant either way. The untrained demand apology, the disciplined require none. To them, every provocation is an exercise in self-rule. Anger never improves a situation. It may silence opponents, but it never persuades them. It may achieve submission, but never respect. The Stoic aims not to dominate others, but to maintain internal order. Their measure of success is not how others yield, but how little they themselves are moved. Epictetus warned that you should not speak while angry, because anger speaks on its own behalf, not yours. The Stoic follows this law strictly. They postpone speech until the emotion has cooled, until words are guided by judgment rather than reaction. This pause transforms chaos into control. In that pause, power returns. Modern culture glorifies outrage as authenticity. People equate restraint with weakness and fury with passion. The Stoic rejects this false dichotomy. Passion without discipline is combustion. Real strength is quiet, deliberate, and controlled. The Stoic does not perform emotion, they command it. The loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. They are simply the least stable. Anger poisons thought long after the event has passed. It revives itself through memory. The Stoic practices release. They understand that replaying an offense is voluntary suffering. Every repetition is self-harm. To let go is not to excuse the act, but to end the internal damage. Peace is not granted by others, it is chosen. When anger arises, the Stoic studies it like a scientist examining a reaction. What triggered this? What expectation was violated? What story did I tell myself? By dissecting emotion, they drain it of mystery. Analysis replaces agitation. Understanding replaces escalation. The fire burns out when oxygen is removed. Awareness removes oxygen from anger. Anger thrives in pride. Pride insists that the world obey your sense of justice. The Stoic dismantles this illusion. They remind themselves the world is not personal. People act according to their nature and understanding, not your preferences. Expecting perfection is folly. Accepting imperfection is maturity. The wise adjust their response, not their delusion. To eliminate anger, one must value reason more than emotion. This hierarchy guides all Stoic action. The emotional person seeks relief. The rational person seeks resolution. Relief ends temporarily. Resolution endures. When you operate from reason, you do not depend on the behavior of others to determine your peace. The calm person is not unfeeling. They feel everything but remain master of it. Their restraint is built from repetition, 1,000 small acts of patience that add up to unshakable control. They know that the moment you defend your peace, anger loses its purpose. You cannot be both furious and focused. Every human being is tested by anger daily, by traffic, by misunderstanding, by betrayal. The Stoic prepares for this as a soldier trains for battle. Each irritation is practice. Each test is an opportunity to demonstrate command. What others call provocation, the Stoic calls training. The battlefield is internal, and every victory is silent. Seneca advised that when anger rises, remember how small its cause will seem tomorrow. Time reveals perspective. What feels intolerable now will be insignificant later. The Stoic applies this foresight instantly. They project themselves forward and see how little it matters. In that vision, anger loses its urgency. The future becomes a tool to correct the present. Anger always promises power, but it delivers exhaustion. The more you indulge it, the weaker you become. It erodes focus, judgment, and composure, the very tools of strength. The Stoic guards these tools as sacred instruments. They never allow emotion to dull their edge. The Stoic views every angry person as a mirror. The mirror shows what happens when reason fails. It is not a sight to condemn, but to avoid. Each time you see anger, you see the cost of undisciplined emotion. You see the difference between reaction and rule. Anger shortens life, not in years, but in quality. It steals presence, clarity, and rest. The Stoic understands that peace of mind is not a luxury, but a necessity. They protect it as fiercely as wealth or health. No argument, insult, or injustice is worth the decay of the soul. The wise person knows that calm outlasts every rage. Anger is intense but brief. Composure is steady and permanent. History forgets those who shouted, but remembers those who acted with reason. The Stoic aims to belong to the latter. To neutralize anger, the Stoic practices inversion. When insulted, they ask, "What if I had done the same?" This reflection breeds humility. They realize that every offense has once been theirs in some form. Compassion replaces indignation. Understanding does what fury never can. It ends the cycle. Anger and justice are not the same. Justice is measured, consistent, and deliberate. Anger is impulsive, inconsistent, and self-serving. The Stoic pursues justice through reason. They separate moral conviction from emotional reaction. This separation ensures that right action is not corrupted by vanity or vengeance. Anger tempts through the illusion of importance. It makes the trivial feel monumental. The Stoic dissolves this illusion by asking, "Will this matter in a week, a month, a year?" Almost always the answer is no. What does not endure does not deserve energy. The wise invest their strength only in what time cannot erase. Every act of restraint is a victory that compounds. The more you resist anger, the weaker its pull becomes. Eventually, provocation loses meaning. What once required effort becomes natural calm. The Stoics' strength is cumulative. Their peace is the result of countless moments of quiet discipline. The untrained seek to control the world. The Stoic seeks to control themselves. This is the only control that endures. To conquer anger is to conquer the need for dominance, for validation, for retaliation. Freedom begins when you no longer need to win every encounter. The modern mind is addicted to reaction. The Stoic detoxifies it through awareness. They observe triggers, label them, and release them. They choose silence where noise would rule. In that silence, wisdom expands. Every calm response builds an inner empire that cannot be invaded. Anger never helps because it cannot see beyond itself. It burns without direction. The Stoic turns that same fire into light. They convert passion into purpose, irritation into insight. What others waste on fury, the wise channel into progress. This transformation is the essence of discipline. The purpose of restraint is not denial, but strength. The Stoic refuses to be reduced to reaction. They stand still while the world convulses, not from detachment, but from understanding. They know that power does not announce itself with noise. It reveals itself through control. When you master anger, you master perception. When you master perception, you master life. The Stoic knows that no external chaos can disturb an ordered mind. Their calm is not an act of suppression, but an act of dominance over false impulses. They do not destroy anger, they outgrow it. To be untroubled is not to be weak, it is to be untouchable. The Stoic turns every attempt to provoke them into another test of composure. Each test passed adds another layer of strength. In this way, anger becomes teacher, not enemy. The emotion that once ruled you becomes the tool that refines you. The person who controls their anger controls their destiny. They do not lose days to regret or nights to turmoil. They move with clarity while others stumble in reaction. Their calm becomes their compass. Their restraint becomes their weapon. The Stoic silence echoes longer than the angry person's noise. Anger never helps. It blinds the mind, weakens the body, and distorts the soul. The Stoic rises above it, not through suppression, but through understanding. They do not fight anger, they transcend it. In doing so, they prove that the highest form of strength is calm, and the greatest victory is peace maintained. Chapter 6. Learn to use your emotions. Emotion is not an enemy, it is raw material. The Stoic does not seek to destroy feeling, but to refine it. Every surge of energy that arises from fear, anger, pride, or desire can be shaped into something higher. The untrained let emotion control direction. The disciplined assign it purpose. This is the difference between chaos and command. The Stoic learns to convert feeling into fuel for reasoned action. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind adapts and converts every obstacle to its purpose. Emotion is one such obstacle. It appears as disruption, yet within it lies immense energy. Anger can become focus, fear can become awareness, grief can become compassion. The Stoic trains to channel each emotion toward virtue. Instead of being consumed, they consume wisely. Every feeling is potential energy waiting for command. The undisciplined person burns out through emotional waste. They allow irritation to scatter attention, envy to drain satisfaction, pride to distort perception. Their energy is divided by constant reaction. The Stoic consolidates this energy through awareness. They do not ask, "Why do I feel this?" They ask, "What can I do with this?" The question shifts emotion from chaos to usefulness. Emotion ceases to be an intruder and becomes a servant. Seneca taught that fire tests gold and adversity tests character. The Stoic sees emotion as both fire and forge. It reveals impurities in thought and refines strength. When emotion rises, they use it as feedback. If anger appears, it signals expectation. If fear arises, it exposes attachment. Each emotion provides data. Through reflection, the Stoic transforms data into discipline. To use emotion well, the Stoic cultivates distance. They observe without immediate identification. The space between stimulus and response is the workshop of control. There, emotion is examined, named, and redirected. This process turns instinct into intention. Without that space, emotion commands. With it, reason reigns. The mind that can pause for even a second gains eternity in judgment. Emotion contains movement. It is motion toward or away from something perceived as important. The Stoic aligns that motion with principle. Fear pushes you back, convert it into preparation. Anger drives forward, convert it into focus. Sadness pulls inward, convert it into reflection. Desire stretches outward, convert it into discipline. Each conversion preserves energy while removing instability. What once dominated becomes an instrument. The Stoic understands that emotion is not weakness. Misdirection is. They refuse to waste energy on outcomes beyond control. Instead, they use emotion to strengthen what is within reach: thought, effort, endurance. A disciplined person may feel the same surge of emotion as anyone else, but it expresses differently. It moves silently, productively, toward order. Emotion becomes muscle, not noise. People often speak of controlling emotion as if it were suppression. The Stoic rejects suppression. Suppressed emotion festers and distorts behavior. Controlled emotion clarifies and directs behavior. The Stoic neither denies nor indulges feeling. They sculpt it. Just as a river can destroy when uncontained, emotion can create when channeled. Restraint provides structure. Structure allows flow. Emotion is energy that seeks expression. The untrained release it impulsively. The wise refine it intentionally. When insulted, the untrained retaliate. The Stoic reflects, then acts according to principle, not reaction. This transformation of energy from instinct to virtue is the foundation of Stoic power. The emotion still exists, but its use has changed form. Seneca wrote that even the wise feel anger, but they do not obey it. Feeling is human. Obedience is optional. The Stoic experiences emotion fully but chooses expression carefully. They let emotion inform, not dictate. Emotion shows what the mind values. Reason decides how to act upon it. Through this balance, emotion becomes a compass, not a storm. To use emotion, one must first understand its purpose. Fear exists to warn, not to paralyze. Anger exists to signal boundary, not to destroy. Sadness exists to release attachment, not to drown the mind. Each emotion has function when purified of distortion. The Stoic seeks the signal within the noise. Once found, they act upon the signal and discard the residue. In leadership, emotion becomes influence. The Stoic leader transmits calm through composure, confidence through consistency, and courage through clarity. They do not deny feeling, they govern its visibility. People follow stability. The ability to contain and direct emotion makes one reliable under pressure. Reliability is trust. Trust is power earned through self-control. Emotion fuels creativity when disciplined. The Stoic writer, artist, or thinker does not wait for inspiration. They transform restlessness into momentum. Frustration becomes focus. Longing becomes vision. Pain becomes insight. The disciplined do not suppress suffering. They harvest it. What once felt unbearable becomes material for construction. The Stoic builds from what others escape. When emotion appears, the Stoic conducts an internal audit. What am I protecting? What am I pursuing? What belief gave rise to this? Through this analysis, emotion reveals priorities. If those priorities are misaligned, the emotion corrects them. Each reaction becomes an opportunity to refine values. Through continuous examination, the Stoic eliminates contradictions between what they feel and what they believe. Emotion should not be trusted, but it should be studied. The Stoic approaches feeling like a scientist, curious, observant, unafraid. They do not label emotion good or bad, but ask what function it serves. By removing judgment, they gain precision. Precision allows transformation. The mind that studies itself cannot be deceived by itself. The Stoic uses emotional intensity as a diagnostic of attachment. The stronger the emotion, the deeper the attachment to something external. This recognition directs focus inward. They replace dependency with discipline. The goal is not numbness, but proportion. To feel according to reason, not impulse, is the definition of maturity. Emotion used well strengthens resilience. Every surge of frustration becomes endurance training. Every pang of envy becomes a reminder of self-focus. Every fear tests faith in preparation. The Stoic grows stronger through what once weakened them. Nothing is wasted. Every sensation is practice. Seneca advised that emotion should be governed like a city, lawful, ordered, and firm. The Stoic enforces laws within the mind. No feeling may riot unchecked. Each must serve the greater peace. This inner governance prevents tyranny by impulse. When reason rules, emotion becomes the citizen, not the dictator. The disciplined person does not seek to eliminate emotion, they seek to integrate it. Integration creates wholeness. Fragmentation breeds chaos. The Stoic welcomes emotion as a natural part of being, but refuses to let it occupy the throne. They respect emotion as messenger, not master. In this hierarchy, reason reigns supreme, but compassion remains present. Emotion can become an ally in virtue. Compassion motivates justice. Fear sharpens courage. Grief deepens gratitude. Anger clarifies conviction. Every emotion contains a lesson in its opposite. The Stoic extracts that lesson deliberately. They use feeling as a mirror, seeing where understanding is still incomplete. The practice of channeling emotion requires awareness before reaction. The Stoic trains to observe the rising tide without movement. They feel its pull, but do not act until reason gives command. This pause separates them from the untrained. It is in the pause that wisdom operates. Without it, emotion rules unopposed. The mind that governs emotion also governs destiny. People believe fate determines action, but reaction determines fate. The Stoic reverses this by mastering internal responses. They cannot control the external event, but they can control the energy that follows it. Through that control, they shape outcome. Emotion, when used correctly, becomes moral force. It aligns motivation with virtue. The Stoic feels the pull of anger, but converts it into assertive truth. They feel the sting of fear, but convert it into alertness. They feel the ache of loss, but convert it into appreciation. Nothing is wasted, because nothing is resisted. This transformation is the core of Stoic alchemy. When emotion is denied, it becomes shadow. When acknowledged and directed, it becomes strength. The Stoic keeps emotion visible but contained, active but disciplined. Their heart beats strongly, but their mind holds the reins. This unity of passion and reason defines balance. Emotion is inevitable. Suffering is optional. The Stoic does not flee emotion, but removes its sting through comprehension. Understanding changes the chemistry of reaction. Once you see the mechanism, it loses control. Knowledge disarms emotion faster than suppression ever could. The Stoic practices daily reflection to study emotional response. Each evening they ask, "What stirred me today? Did I control it, or did it control me? What principle did I forget?" This ritual transforms emotion into education. Progress is measured not by the absence of feeling, but by the precision of response. In modern life, emotion is exploited. Media, politics, and commerce all depend on reaction. The Stoic breaks this cycle by reclaiming authorship of feeling. They choose where to invest attention. They refuse to be played by provocation. Their detachment is not coldness, but sovereignty. To use emotion well is to become unbreakable. You cannot be controlled by what you understand. The Stoic's awareness becomes armor. They do not fear emotion, they wield it. Their calm is not emptiness, it is direction. They do not burn less, they burn cleaner. When the Stoic feels rising anger, they transmute it into decisive clarity. When they feel fear, they convert it into readiness. When sadness lingers, they convert it into empathy. They live by conversion, not suppression. Their strength grows each time energy is reclaimed from chaos and redirected toward order. The Stoic knows that emotion is a universal inheritance. It cannot be escaped, but it can be mastered. To master it is to return to nature's design, the harmony between impulse and reason. The emotional person lives scattered. The Stoic lives centered. Their heart moves, but their mind directs. Emotion used with purpose creates momentum. The Stoic acts not out of passion, but with it, guided, harnessed, and precise. They ride the current rather than drown in it. The current remains strong, but their direction remains sovereign. To learn to use your emotions is to transcend them. You no longer ask for peace because you have built it from within. The waves no longer control the vessel. You steer. Every surge of energy, once feared, becomes propulsion. The Stoic does not eliminate emotion. They elevate it into power. Chapter 7. Emotional control for leaders. Leadership begins with self-command. A person who cannot regulate their emotions cannot guide others. The Stoic leader governs the internal state before attempting to govern the external. They understand that composure is not optional, it is the foundation of trust. People follow calm, not chaos. They follow the one who remains stable when others fracture. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire amid war, plague, and betrayal. His power did not come from domination, but from restraint. He understood that to lead is to absorb instability without spreading it. His journals reveal a constant struggle against anger, fear, and despair, yet every entry ends with reason reasserting control. Leadership to him was emotional governance in action. The Stoic leader does not deny emotion, they direct it. They feel deeply, but express deliberately. Their anger becomes conviction. Their fear becomes vigilance. Their compassion becomes policy. They understand that emotion is energy, and energy without discipline becomes destruction. Their role is to convert energy into order. The modern leader faces different empires but the same storms: pressure, criticism, uncertainty. Without emotional discipline, leadership becomes reaction. The Stoic leader remains composed under scrutiny. They understand that the higher one rises, the more their mood shapes others. Emotional control is not self-serving. It is service to the group. Calm decisions ripple outward as stability. A leader's tone becomes the atmosphere of the environment. Panic multiplies through teams faster than any command. The Stoic leader eliminates panic by example. When they speak slowly. When they act precisely. Their presence signals that no situation is beyond control. This steadiness becomes contagious. The team mirrors composure and performs at a higher level. Seneca wrote that the mind must stand firm like a wall that repels waves. The Stoic leader embodies this. They do not absorb every complaint or rumor. They filter them through reason. They listen but do not react. They evaluate but do not panic. They understand that clarity is impossible in emotional noise. Their calm is both shield and signal. To control others, control yourself first. Authority without internal order collapses into tyranny or weakness. The Stoic leader maintains equilibrium through preparation. They rehearse adversity in the mind. Before crisis strikes, they have already visualized composure. When the moment arrives, their response is automatic discipline, not instinctive reaction. The Stoic leader practices emotional minimalism. They express only what is useful. Anger, frustration, and fear are withheld until they can be communicated constructively. Their restraint is not suppression. It is precision. Words carry more weight when they are rare. The untrained dilute their influence through excess emotion. The disciplined preserve theirs through economy. Leadership demands endurance. Emotional endurance comes from perspective. The Stoic leader does not exaggerate victories or catastrophes. They understand that both are temporary. They anchor themselves in process, not result. When outcomes fluctuate, they remain unmoved. This steadiness becomes reliability, and reliability earns trust. The Stoic leader knows that emotion distorts perception. Anger makes small problems appear large. Fear magnifies uncertainty. Impatience blinds judgment. They neutralize distortion through pause. Before reacting, they breathe. Before deciding, they think. The pause is their hidden strength. It transforms emotion into insight. Epictetus taught that every leader must remember what is within control and what is not. The Stoic leader applies this daily. They focus on process, preparation, and principle. They cannot control others' opinions, but they can control their tone. They cannot control outcomes, but they can control conduct. In this distinction lies peace. Leadership under pressure reveals character. Anyone can appear composed when conditions are easy. True mastery appears when stakes rise. The Stoic leader becomes more focused in chaos, not less. Their calm deepens with challenge. They treat each crisis as a chance to demonstrate control. This reliability inspires loyalty. People follow what they can trust. Emotional control also governs speech. The Stoic leader avoids impulsive communication. They understand that one word can destroy confidence. They speak with intent. Their language carries measured authority. Each sentence reflects clarity of mind. To them, silence is often the most powerful message. What they withhold builds as much trust as what they say. When the Stoic leader must correct, they do so without malice. Criticism is delivered as guidance, not punishment. Emotion distorts feedback into hostility. The disciplined leader removes hostility and replaces it with direction. Their composure transforms confrontation into cooperation. Correction becomes an act of strength, not aggression. The Stoic leader manages perception not through manipulation, but through consistency. People do not need perfection, they need predictability. A calm leader can make mistakes without losing respect. A volatile one loses credibility even when right. Consistency communicates safety, and safety allows teams to perform without fear. Emotional control extends beyond temper. It governs enthusiasm, pride, and disappointment. The Stoic leader tempers excitement with perspective. They celebrate progress without arrogance. They accept failure without collapse. Their equilibrium signals maturity. Their demeanor says, "We continue." Momentum replaces mood. Seneca warned that leaders who cannot control emotion will be ruled by flatterers. Praise inflates ego, criticism deflates it. The Stoic leader accepts both with balance. Compliment does not intoxicate. Reproach does not destabilize. Feedback becomes data, not drama. They measure success by alignment with principle, not by applause. In moments of uncertainty, followers watch for emotional cues. The Stoic leader knows this and behaves accordingly. Even when they feel doubt, they project stability. Not deception, but discipline. Their calm gives others time to think clearly. By controlling their emotional temperature, they regulate the environment's climate. To lead is to absorb impact. The Stoic leader acts as a shock absorber for collective tension. They translate chaos into order, They accept the emotional weight others cannot bear and process it rationally. Their mind becomes a filter that converts fear into clarity and frustration into direction. The Stoic leader's calm does not mean softness. It means control under tension. They can act decisively without aggression, firmly without hostility. Their authority comes from presence, not force. The more pressure they face, the quieter their power becomes. Quiet confidence commands more than loud intensity. A leader's self-control determines the organization's stability. A single impulsive reaction can undo months of progress. The Stoic leader acts from principle, not mood. They create systems to prevent emotional decision-making. They seek counsel, verify information, and pause before judgment. Their process protects them from themselves. Leadership is emotional labor. The Stoic prepares for fatigue by maintaining internal order. They schedule reflection, rest, and solitude to reset equilibrium. They know that burnout begins in the mind long before it shows in action. Preventative calm is part of discipline. Recovery is not weakness, it is maintenance of strength. Emotional control enhances influence. People instinctively trust those who remain steady. They gravitate toward balance in a world addicted to volatility. The Stoic leader does not chase charisma, they cultivate composure. Charisma fades, composure endures. Influence built on calm outlasts every performance. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that leadership is service, not privilege. Emotional control ensures that service remains pure. Without it, power corrupts judgment. The Stoic leader resists the intoxication of authority by remembering their role, to act justly, speak truthfully, and remain unmoved by vanity. Every leader faces betrayal. The Stoic leader expects it. They do not let disloyalty poison their principles. They grieve privately, then act with dignity. Retaliation is beneath them. Their response is improvement, not vengeance. The higher the provocation, the deeper their restraint. Emotional control in leadership is not about coldness. It is about clarity. The Stoic leader can show empathy without losing firmness, compassion without losing structure. They know that emotion expressed through virtue strengthens connection. Emotion expressed through impulse weakens it. The Stoic leader uses emotion to inspire, not to manipulate. Their passion is steady, not theatrical. They communicate conviction without frenzy. This steadiness creates environments where others feel safe to act with integrity. Order at the top creates harmony below. In conflict, the Stoic leader refuses escalation. They listen, summarize, and reframe. They know that anger closes ears, but calm opens them. They pursue resolution through reason. Their patience disarms aggression. By staying centered, they pull others toward balance. To lead effectively, one must see beyond emotion. The Stoic leader separates feeling from fact. They process emotion privately, then decide publicly. This separation preserves both humanity and authority. Transparency without control breeds instability. Controlled vulnerability breeds trust. The disciplined leader accepts accountability for emotional contagion. They know their reaction sets precedent. Every sigh, gesture, or tone teaches. The Stoic treats emotion as communication. They choose messages deliberately. Even silence is strategy. When pressure mounts, the Stoic leader's composure becomes a moral act. It demonstrates that human beings can act rationally under duress. Their stillness protects others from panic. Their steadiness creates clarity. Their discipline becomes an ethical standard, a demonstration of order in disorder. The Stoic leader measures progress not by popularity, but by consistency of principle. Popularity shifts with mood. principle stands with time. Emotional control ensures that values are not sacrificed for applause. Integrity remains non-negotiable, regardless of sentiment. Leadership through emotional control does not eliminate warmth, it refines it. The Stoic leader can offer comfort without indulgence, forgiveness without weakness, and praise without inflation. Their emotional moderation sustains respect. People trust leaders who feel but do not falter. In every organization, emotion will rise. The Stoic leader prepares for it. They act as the anchor in turbulent water. Their calm is not absence of pressure, it is mastery of pressure. They show that control is not suppression, but sovereignty. The measure of leadership is not how loudly one commands, but how quietly one endures. The Stoic leader demonstrates that strength is calm, authority is restraint, and control is influence. Their example teaches without words. They rule themselves first, and by doing so, rule well. The world does not need louder leaders. It needs steadier ones. Emotional control is the architecture of steadiness. The Stoic leader builds that architecture daily through awareness, reflection, and restraint. In every challenge, they reaffirm one truth: the mind that governs itself governs all. Chapter 8. Stop being a slave. The Stoic does not kneel to circumstance, emotion, or opinion. Freedom begins in the mind, and so does slavery. Most people are not bound by chains or law, they are bound by dependence. They seek validation, comfort, distraction, and approval. They are controlled by what they crave. The Stoic seeks to end this enslavement, not through rebellion against the world, but through command of the self. Epictetus was born into literal slavery, yet he taught freedom more clearly than any emperor. He understood that bondage of the body is nothing compared to bondage of the mind. To be free is to be unaffected by what you cannot control. The moment your peace relies on something external, you have surrendered ownership of yourself. True slavery is not physical constraint. It is dependence on anything beyond reason. The modern person lives surrounded by invisible masters. Devices dictate attention. Praise dictates self-worth. Comfort dictates ambition. The Stoic sees these for what they are, mechanisms of control. The untrained obey them without resistance. The disciplined observe them without compliance. To stop being a slave, you must identify every influence that governs you unconsciously and dismantle it through awareness. Every habit that controls you is a form of servitude. Every craving that overrides judgment reduces freedom. The Stoic does not allow appetite to issue commands. They eat with purpose, speak with intention, rest with moderation. Pleasure is accepted, but never pursued as an end. They understand that indulgence is not enjoyment. It is dependency disguised as reward. The most dangerous master is emotion. It commands with urgency and blinds with justification. When anger dictates action, when fear dictates retreat, when desire dictates compromise, the self is lost. The Stoic reclaims authority by inserting reason between impulse and motion. They act not from feeling, but from choice. This separation is the essence of freedom. Seneca wrote that the greatest slavery is to be a slave to oneself. To obey your moods, impulses, and appetites is to live under constant tyranny. The Stoic replaces obedience with discipline. Discipline is the declaration that reason, not emotion, rules this life. Each act of restraint breaks another link in the chain. Dependence comes in subtle forms: the need to be understood, the need to be liked, the need to be seen. The Stoic erases these illusions. They do not measure worth by recognition. They perform duty without applause. Freedom does not need witnesses. To act rightly is enough. What others think is noise. unworthy of internal response. The modern slave mistakes distraction for freedom. They fill every silence with noise, every gap with stimulation. They fear stillness because stillness reveals truth. The Stoics seek silence deliberately. In quiet, dependence becomes visible. Every craving speaks loudly when the world is still. This confrontation is the beginning of liberation. To stop being a slave, one must identify the masters. Comfort, vanity, anger, fear, greed, approval. Each demands tribute. The Stoic denies them payment. They choose effort over ease, humility over image, patience over impulse. Each denial strengthens the will. Each act of restraint reclaims territory from weakness. The Stoic's freedom is not rebellion, it is sovereignty. Rebellion still reacts to power. Sovereignty ignores it. The free mind does not fight every influence, it outgrows them. It sees the world's manipulation clearly, but remains unmoved. No temptation, insult, or threat can command action against principle. This stillness is power in its purest form. Slavery begins with self-deception. You convince yourself that you must have, must win, must prove. The Stoic dismantles these lies. They do not pursue control of others, they pursue control of self. The more you need from the world, the less of yourself remains. The more you detach from need, the more unbreakable you become. Freedom demands discomfort. Dependence thrives in pleasure. The Stoic welcomes difficulty as training. Every hardship tests the will's authority over desire. When you endure willingly, you prove that comfort no longer owns you. You choose your pain instead of being chosen by it. This choice defines autonomy. Epictetus taught that if something external can disturb you, the fault lies not in the world, but in your judgment. You have placed value on what is outside control. The Stoic corrects this by valuing only what cannot be taken: virtue, reason, and will. Everything else is borrowed, and therefore not truly yours. Freedom is the ability to lose everything except composure. Dependence thrives in habit. The Stoic breaks habit through deliberate friction. They practice restraint not to suffer, but to remember power. They fast, train, endure solitude. Each exercise reminds them that they require little. The less you require, the less the world can manipulate you. The mind enslaved to comfort will betray itself for ease. The Stoic denies the illusion of safety that dependency provides. They prefer challenge because challenge reveals truth. Weakness hides in comfort. Strength is born in discomfort. To choose the harder path willingly is to reclaim freedom from fear. Most people trade autonomy for convenience. They let impulse decide instead of judgment. The Stoic sees this as regression. Every time you react without thought, you reinforce slavery. Every time you choose according to reason, you reinforce freedom. Liberation is built through repetition. Every decision either builds chains or breaks them. Freedom cannot be granted, it must be seized. No one can free you from what you obey internally. The Stoic does not wait for circumstance to align. They act now, in whatever condition they are. Their mind is their empire, and no external power can invade it. True control is internal order. The Stoics' wealth lies in sufficiency. They possess everything because they need nothing. To them, abundance is not measured by quantity, but by independence. The person who can lose possessions without losing composure has achieved mastery. Every attachment surrendered increases strength. The untrained believe that freedom means doing whatever you want. The Stoic knows this is enslavement in disguise. Freedom is doing what is right regardless of what you want. It is not indulgence, but obedience to reason. The impulsive are ruled by craving. The disciplined are ruled by principle. only one can be called free. To stop being a slave, you must learn to command yourself. You must say no to excess, no to distraction, no to false urgency. Each refusal reinforces authority. The more you command, the less the world commands you. Self-rule is not harshness. It is alignment with nature's law of order. Seneca said that no person is free who is a slave to their body. The Stoic respects the body but does not worship it. They train, eat, and rest to maintain strength, not pleasure. They endure discomfort willingly to remind the mind that it commands flesh, not the other way around. The body obeys, the mind directs. The Stoic also frees themselves from emotional codependence. They do not anchor happiness in relationships or validation. They love without attachment. They serve without expectation. They give without condition. When love is purified of need, it becomes unbreakable. Dependency masquerades as devotion. The Stoic knows the difference. Freedom requires awareness of manipulation. Society sells dependence as lifestyle, constant consumption, constant reaction. The Stoic exits this cycle. They consume only what sustains reason and avoid what weakens will. They measure progress by how little they require to remain content. To stop being a slave, you must learn to be alone. Solitude is the crucible of independence. Without it, your thoughts remain untested. The Stoic spends time in silence not to escape, but to confront. They listen to their mind until it obeys. The person who can be alone without anxiety is no longer owned by the world. Every external attachment carries risk. Wealth can vanish, fame can fade, love can change, health can decline. The Stoic prepares for loss daily through contemplation. They visualize separation not to suffer twice, but to train immunity. When loss arrives, it finds them ready. The free mind cannot be cornered by fate. The Stoic's goal is not isolation, but invulnerability. They participate in the world without dependence. They enjoy fortune without clinging to it. They endure hardship without resentment. Their balance comes from detachment, not indifference. They act fully, yet remain inwardly free. To serve others without becoming their servant is the highest test of mastery. The Stoic leads, helps, and loves while maintaining inner autonomy. They give willingly but retain command of self. Service without self-loss is the mark of mature strength. The greatest freedom is freedom from compulsion. The Stoic does not act from pressure but from purpose. They do not seek escape from responsibility. They choose it consciously. Their every decision arises from alignment with principle, not emotional reaction. This constancy makes them untouchable. The modern world worships the illusion of choice while hiding true bondage. Endless options do not equal freedom. Discipline does. The Stoic chooses few things, but chooses them completely. Their life is defined by clarity, not variety. They know that to be everywhere is to be nowhere. Freedom and order are the same. Chaos is just slavery wearing the mask of spontaneity. The Stoic builds internal law and follows it with precision. Each morning they return to discipline as citizens return to law. In that loyalty lies liberation. The Stoic understands that external freedom without internal mastery is failure in disguise. You can possess status, wealth, or influence and still be enslaved to fear, anger, or desire. True power is independence from compulsion. To be unmoved by the world is to rule yourself. Freedom is not comfort. It is control. The Stoic's peace comes not from retreating from the world, but from standing within it without subjugation. They face chaos with stillness, temptation with restraint, pain with endurance. This posture is sovereignty. To stop being a slave is to withdraw the consent you gave to weakness. It is to remember that every command from the world requires your compliance. The Stoic simply stops complying. They choose stillness over noise, action over reaction, principle over passion. Through this, they reclaim dominion over the only territory that ever mattered, the mind. The free person is not the one with the most, but the one who can lose the most without losing themselves. The Stoic builds that strength deliberately. Their independence is not granted by circumstance. It is constructed through discipline. Each act of self-command tightens the grip of freedom. The final act of liberation is gratitude. The Stoic thanks fate for hardship because hardship revealed truth. They thank insult for testing patience, loss for revealing attachment, and solitude for revealing strength. Every trial becomes evidence of freedom achieved. The Stoic stands alone, not in isolation, but in autonomy. They move through the world untouched by its illusions, detached from its control. Nothing external commands them, nothing internal betrays them. They have become what all seek but few attain, a free human being. Chapter 9. Pay the taxes on life. Every life carries a cost. The Stoic does not complain about this price. They pay it willingly. Existence is not free, and peace is not granted without payment. The currency is effort, loss, responsibility, and time. To live well is to understand that all things worth having require sacrifice. To resist this truth is to suffer twice, once through struggle and again through denial. Seneca said that we pay taxes to life. Illness, loss, aging, disappointment. These are the unavoidable costs of participation. The wise pay without protest. They see every challenge as a toll for being alive, and they accept it with calm. The fool argues with reality and multiplies their pain. The Stoic accepts the bill and moves forward. Pain, inconvenience, and impermanence are not punishments. They are conditions of entry. To be alive is to be exposed to them. The Stoic learns to stop asking, "Why me?" and starts asking, "Why not me?" The world owes nothing. Everything you receive, even suffering, is part of the same transaction. You do not question the rain when it falls. You endure it and continue the journey. Every person will lose something they love. Every person will face moments of exhaustion and failure. The Stoic does not attempt to negotiate exemption. They prepare instead. Expectation is the armor against despair. When you accept that hardship is part of the order, it cannot shock you. What is expected cannot wound as deeply. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that life is short, fragile, and unpredictable. He did not write this to mourn, but to prepare. Awareness of mortality sharpens gratitude. When you know every possession, every friendship, and every day is borrowed, you treat them with reverence. You use them wisely. You release them without resistance when time demands payment. The Stoic pays life's taxes in composure. They give patience to difficulty, discipline to disorder, and humility to success. They pay attention to the moment, gratitude to fortune, endurance to pain. Each payment preserves balance. The untrained waste energy resisting the inevitable. The disciplined invest energy adapting to it. Nothing belongs to you permanently. The Stoic accepts this not with sadness, but with strength. Borrowed time, borrowed health, borrowed wealth, each is a temporary loan. When life reclaims what it lent, resentment is foolishness. You are not being robbed, you are settling an account. To live is to borrow, and to die is to repay. The Stoic does not curse the cost of existence. They understand that ease is not the goal. The goal is excellence, and excellence requires weight. Every burden is resistance that strengthens the will. To avoid challenge is to remain weak. The taxes of life refine character. The more you pay, the more capable you become. Suffering refines as fire refines metal. It removes impurity, it tests integrity. The Stoic does not run from it but walks through it with composure. They see pain as teacher, not tormentor. Each hardship clarifies values, exposes illusion, and hardens resolve. Life taxes you to reveal your true form. Gratitude transforms the act of payment into peace. The Stoic thanks life for the opportunity to endure. They see value in every struggle because it confirms existence. To suffer means to participate. To feel loss means to have loved. To age means to have lived. Gratitude converts taxation into privilege. When you resist what must be paid, you accumulate emotional debt. Resentment, denial, and complaint are interest that compounds suffering. The Stoic avoids this by paying in full, immediately. Acceptance is payment. Refusal is rebellion against reality, and reality always wins. Seneca said that misfortune shows who the good man is. Adversity reveals character because it removes pretense. The Stoic faces hardship with dignity, not because it is easy, but because it is required. They do not expect fairness. They expect fluctuation. They know that pain will come, and they choose to meet it upright. When loss arrives, the Stoic does not beg for exemption. They recall that they were told from the beginning that this was part of the cost. The child must grow, the body must weaken, the friend must leave, the hour must pass. These are not tragedies, they are transactions. Each payment sustains the balance of nature. To pay the taxes on life is to live without illusion. The Stoic strips away expectation of permanence. They do not build peace upon what changes. They build it upon what cannot: virtue, discipline, judgment. These inner possessions are untaxed and indestructible. They are earned through effort, not given through fortune. People often say, "I didn't deserve this." The Stoic answers, "Deserving has nothing to do with it." The universe distributes experience without bias. To expect reward for goodness is to misunderstand nature. Virtue is its own reward. When you do right, you pay willingly. When you suffer unjustly, you pay with patience. Both are forms of contribution to order. The Stoic treats time as the most expensive tax. Every hour spent in anger or worry is payment wasted. They invest time in what returns growth, learning, service, reflection, and self-mastery. They know that minutes cannot be refunded. Each one must be spent with intention. Fate is the collector. It arrives without warning, demanding payment in the form of loss, limitation, or change. The Stoic welcomes it like a familiar visitor. They prepared for this encounter long before it arrived. They pay calmly, knowing that resentment does not reduce the cost. The taxes of life are unavoidable, but the manner of payment is voluntary. The untrained pay with panic. The Stoic pays with grace. They maintain posture even when the weight is heavy. This composure is the ultimate display of mastery. Dignity under pressure is the mark of the free mind. When hardship strikes, the Stoic does not collapse into self-pity. They recognize that suffering is shared by all. To cry, "Why me?" is to forget the human condition. To say, "It is my turn," is to align with reality. This alignment ends resistance. When you see suffering as duty, not injustice, pain loses its sting. Life taxes everyone differently, but the principle remains constant. Everything ends. Health fades, loved ones depart, strength declines. The Stoic uses this knowledge to intensify living, not to dull it. They savor moments precisely because they know the bill will come due. Awareness of impermanence amplifies appreciation. The untrained person tries to hoard comfort. They fear the cost of letting go. The Stoic knows that hoarding leads to rot. To cling is to suffocate. Freedom comes through release. Each surrender clears the mind of clutter. The fewer possessions of attachment, the smaller the tax. Acceptance is not passivity, it is readiness. The Stoic prepares for adversity not through pessimism, but through realism. They rehearse loss to build resilience. When difficulty arrives, they act, endure, and learn. They do not freeze in shock because they already paid the emotional price through preparation. To pay the taxes on life means to live without complaint. Complaint is noise that adds nothing. The Stoic replaces it with quiet efficiency. They endure pain the way a soldier endures weather, acknowledging it, adapting, continuing. Complaints never built strength. Endurance always has. The wise person does not seek exemption from pain, but exemption from panic. They know that pain cannot destroy what is internal. It only touches the outer frame. Virtue, integrity, and reason remain untouchable. The Stoic keeps focus there. When the body aches and fortune fades, they remain whole. The taxes of life come due in proportion to living fully. The more you love, the more you risk loss. The more you strive, the more you invite failure. Yet, to avoid these costs is to avoid living. The Stoic pays without hesitation. They prefer full participation with full consequence to half life without risk. Seneca reminded that to lose what was never yours is not loss. The Stoic uses this reasoning to navigate impermanence. You do not own your possessions, your relationships, or your time. They were lent. When recalled, the only rational act is gratitude for the duration of use. The Stoic understands that the pain of loss fades, but the dignity of composure remains. They measure themselves not by what they keep, but by how they endure the taking. Character revealed under taxation is proof of mastery. When others crumble, the Stoic remains steady. This steadiness is their wealth. To pay life's taxes is also to contribute to others. The Stoic does not retreat into isolation. They share strength through example. Their composure reassures the fearful. Their calm clarifies the confused. Their endurance inspires the weary. Each act of control becomes collective guidance. Payment made with grace enriches all who witness it. The Stoic knows that pain ends, but principle endures. Time consumes everything external, but cannot touch integrity. This truth is the final comfort. The body will decline, fortune will shift, but discipline remains. The taxes of life are temporary, the rewards of virtue are eternal. Freedom from complaint does not mean indifference to suffering. The Stoic feels deeply, but responds wisely. They grieve without collapse, hope without illusion, and act without panic. Their peace is earned through understanding that the cost of existence is non-negotiable. Acceptance converts burden into balance. To pay the taxes on life is to live as part of the order, not apart from it. The Stoic aligns with nature's design: rise, struggle, decay, and return. Each phase is honorable. The refusal to accept one corrupts all. The disciplined person moves through them all with respect. The final payment every human makes is the surrender of life itself. The Stoic rehearses this daily to remove fear. Death is the closing of the account, the completion of the transaction. It is not theft, but conclusion. When the moment comes, the Stoic pays calmly, grateful for the time borrowed. The person who understands this truth lives without panic and dies without regret. They measure wealth not by what they accumulate, but by what they can lose without complaint. They walk through life light, strong, and ready. The taxes never cease, but neither does their willingness to pay. To live is to owe, and to owe is to participate. The Stoic pays gladly because they understand the privilege of existence. Every trial is proof that you are alive. Every cost is proof that you are engaged in the experience of being human. The free person pays with gratitude and walks away unburdened. The taxes on life are not punishment, they are proof of living. The Stoic pays them without hesitation, without resentment, and without fear. They stand firm under the weight, knowing that the burden itself is what keeps the spirit strong. The cost of life is life itself, and the wise pay it in full.